gonna put you up here. I'll put myself up there too, so you automatically look even more handsome. Watch this. You instantly get better looking just by comparison. That's the way it goes. How are you, sir?
I'm great. How are you doing?
Hey man, life is good. I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you, the communication, being willing to jump in, but the communication on everything too. Again, just every bit of the professional, man. So thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And thank you for accommodating me today. That's tremendous.
Oh man, no, absolutely, absolutely glad to do it. We got some of our Apogee men from around the world hanging out here, and we're just excited to talk all things Gary.
All
Uh,
right.
and these guys will come in for a little Q&A too. If you're okay with it, man, we can dive right in and I'd like to start expanding on a couple of things that I've seen recently that you said, and we'll just kind of go from there because you freaking fire me up. You get me excited, man. One of the reasons I'm excited to have you on personally is I consistently hear you hit the nail on the head with so many patterns that we see, with 1,000 or so men and women coming through this program over the last few years. You consistently hit the nail on the head. And you were talking recently about transformation, and you're saying transformation, isn't found in insight, it's forged in action. Man,
Correct.
how are you helping people bridge that gap? Because like so many wisdom is locked in these aha moments, but there's so many people that convince themselves to keep those insights from churning into real change. So give everybody an idea of how you're helping people bridge that gap, man, and we'll go from there.
Well, I think the first thing you have to do is address how fundamentally addicted you are to how you feel. Right now, that's never ending, and that will never end. You will always firstly be attached to how you feel. So when you get an insight, you feel better. Right? So you feel better. You're like, oh, this is good. I feel so much better about this thing now. But there's no change in life, and life only ever changes in the paradigm of action. So your life will not change. I don't care how better you feel about life, nothing will shift until you do something about how you feel.
Mm.
So action is the source of all significant change in your life, right? That's where the rubber meets the road. We
So
all want to feel better, but it's not always possible. So I kind of talk people off of the idea of that feeling better as the aim. And by the way, you'd be surprised how much of your plans are based in ultimately just feeling better.
mm, so true. So it's so true. So how do you talk to the person? Because this is some of the things we've had with some of our men
Yeah,
here who go, okay, I need to take action. And the next action I need to take is consuming more information, right?
right,
The next action I need to take is to listen to the next podcast. The next
right.
action I need to take is to just, I haven't read that book, right?
Yeah,
I read this one, then my life changes.
right. So ultimately, again, if we can examine it from the same perspective, we're bedded in with our feelings.
Mm,
We like to think of ourselves as people of commitments, right? But we're not, right? We'll bend and shape our commitments all
mm,
over the place. So if somebody, is kind of looking at their life and they're not taking the action, they're not driving ahead, they're not doing what they need to do, and usually it's because they're not clear about what the point of this is.
yeah,
Like, where are we going? Like, this
yeah.
is so good. Everybody's having fun. We've all got the fucking t-shirts, but this isn't making any difference, right? It's got to make a difference when you can come back to me and say, here's something I did, and what I did was miraculous for me. Like, that was an unprecedented action. I would never have done that, but for this insight. Now you're on the road, right? I have a
Mhm.
small group that I'm coaching right now, and I spoke to them last night, and I said, "You got a week. Come back with a miracle.
Mm.
That's it. What should we do? I don't know. We'll work it out."
I freaking love that. I love that. So, okay, so we've got a bunch of dads on here too. I love
Right.
you got a week, come back with a miracle. How do we raise our kids with this mindset as well, especially if we haven't adopted it? So I think I heard you a while ago, and it may have been where I got introduced to grow up when
Right.
I first read Grow Up, I was either introduced to it through, I've got a couple friends that I meet with every other week. Gentleman named Larry Hagner from the Dad Edge, gentleman named Ryan Mickler from Order of Man, right? So I meet with these guys every other. So I think I got introduced to your work first through one of them. And this concept of going back and finding this miracle. I read something recently. You said you can't forge a new and lasting future without being complete in your past. So you
Right.
got your own unresolved childhood trauma
Right.
that shows up in your parenting, right? And then you want to convince them to go find a miracle. Does it start
Right.
with us finding a miracle ourselves?
Okay, so the first thing is I love talking to parents because the first thing I love saying to parents is you're screwed,
Yeah.
right? You are screwed. Like if you think you're going to have this say in how this turns out, good luck, right? But that doesn't mean to say you can't guide, doesn't mean to say you can't kind of point in the right direction. That's all great. But ultimately there'll come a point where, and this is a really challenging thing about being a parent is you kind of have to take your hands off, right? And that's the really challenging part. But but mostly I find, especially with fathers, we're preparing for our children for the childhood that we had.
Mm. Mhm.
So
Mhm.
you're giving them the tools that you think they're going to need based on what you went through,
Yeah.
right? So sometimes it's like the things that you didn't have, I'm going to make sure my kid has that, right? Or the things that happened, you're like, I'm going to make sure my kid never has to go through that. So
Mm.
already you're kind of forming some kind of template here of how this is going to go. And here's what happens. All the same familiar cues, noises, upsets, traumas, disasters, they have a very familiar ring to them with your kids at times that you went through. And that's because, I think the best advice I can give to anybody, I'm not only an advice guy, but if I was an advice guy, here's what I'd say to them. Get complete with your childhood as quickly as possible. But you don't get complete with it by saying, I'm over it. That's not complete. That's, I'm willing to carry it around. Right?
Mm.
That's a big difference. So
Mm.
for instance, I'm complete with my childhood. That is to say, there's nothing there for me that there's no pressure points that it has on me anymore. Right? It went the way it went. Now, it took me a long time to get to the place where I could authentically say it went the way it went. And I'm not going to blame anybody anymore. I'm done with that. Right? It's punishing myself. Everything I'm saying here, by the way, makes some kind of logical sense and would make a real good bumper sticker, right? But to do that work, to get complete with your childhood, is not easy work because most of the stuff that you're incomplete about, you actually think you're okay with. So to go back to one's childhood and say, okay, wait a minute here, what am I hanging on to? What have I kind of come out of that with as true about myself? And that was really like I think my second or third book. When I wrote about the conclusions that we've come to, right? Because my field is ontology. It's
Mhm.
all language based. That is to say, what did I fundamentally conclude about myself when I was a kid? Right? And you'll see it's not good news. No one concluded that they're fucking awesome,
Mhm.
right? It's always like, I'm not smart enough. I'll never fit in. I'm weird. I'm stupid. Right? It's always some, right? Now, the downside of being a parent is you seriously think you can stop your kid from doing that. And you can't. And you're not supposed to. You're just supposed to let them know that that's what they're doing, right? You're not supposed to stop it. Why won't I stop it? Oh, well, one, you can't because it's the fuel for a human being to overcome. So if I live a life of producing results and I'm a winner, I'm a goer, I'm not doing that in a vacuum. I'm doing that because there's something here I'm fundamentally dissatisfied with. That's what that's all about. The question is what? What am I dissatisfied? So many years ago, I discovered that what I'd sentenced myself to in moments of my childhood, by the way. And by the way, that's how quickly it goes. Children are so imprintable. Like that, I'm not smart enough. And, I wasn't walking around saying that to myself every 2 minutes, but I was living that life. I was following that trajectory,
Mm.
avoiding whatever I needed to avoid, excusing it, justifying it, and then making a good case for the direction I am going. And this is more me, and this is more what appeals to me. And what I was avoiding was this internal conflict. It wasn't until I was like 40 that I discovered, like, I'm run by this. Like, this just consumes me, right? And that was and it never goes away, by the way, just as a reminder, it hasn't gone anywhere. I just don't live the life of it anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. I like how you differentiate that between you're not convincing yourself that you're okay with it. What you're fundamentally doing is finding a peace in spite of it.
So
If
what I like to, how I'll tell you how I like to phrase it. I like to use it like my little lighthouse in the night.
Yeah.
So whenever the noise is like this is too much or too complicated, I'm pressing in.
And when you press in, do you do it's so fascinating because we were having an interesting conversation before you came on around getting these thoughts out of our head. And
Yeah,
we were talking about sometimes saying it out loud. We were talking about writing it.
yeah,
We were talking about, right, like doing the work there to actually try to get clear on what it is we even think we are saying.
yeah.
So when you're doing the work on it, is it a process of speaking it out loud? Is it a writing it down to get it to be something that's
You
objective?
can, you can. You got to watch. You don't get too internal,
Mm,
right? You don't want to go in for the fucking answer. It's not in there. It's out here, right? The answer's out here. Where in action in life, because that's where it's all happening,
mm,
right? Again, that's part of the kind of illusion. We think, well, I'll just fix this mess, right? And what you actually learn is, I think the phrase that I've used is that you've become so focused on 6 inches of dirt in front of your face, trying to fix that, that you're missing the whole game, right? So you're just consumed by this. How do I control my thought? Good luck with that. I can just randomly say some words here and change your thoughts right now. I give these guys a half decent martini. Their thoughts are all over the place,
yeah.
right? So what you got to understand is the fight to control something
Yeah.
or try and shit. That's how it persists, right?
Yeah.
So I give myself a little bit of room. I'm like, oh, so we're doing that. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we're doing that. And it's not just thoughts, as everybody here will know, it's the feelings that go with it.
Right.
It's all the emotions that roll with it, right? The language and in my field, the being, but you would call it however you feeling, but there's a bit more to being in that. But if you call it language and feeling, they're arising at the same time. So the illusion is we think language is a descriptor. It's not. You're already hardwired for all those words that are falling out your mouth or running through your head, and you're emotionally in sync with them. Those are arising together. It's not I speak and therefore or I feel it and then I notice and then I say it. No, it's all happening together. So the language and the being are interconnected, intertwined in a salsa, right? They're having the dance of their lives. And the more you try and wrestle with that, you're actually giving more life to it, right? You're giving it more fire.
Hmm.
So I'm all right with negative thoughts. I'm just not okay with negative action.
That is so that is I love the way you're framing that, man. So again, the piece, not even necessarily reframing the language to reframe the emotions. It's not even necessarily doing that. It's more counteracting with action in a different direction.
Right. And I'm going to give you a fundamental piece that everybody talks about, and I've spoken to Ryan Mishler a couple of times and
Yeah.
yeah, I've done a lot of these kind of conversations and
Yeah.
men talk about integrity
Yeah.
and no one has any fucking idea what integrity is.
They say that. Tell me about that.
Everybody thinks integrity is do what you said you'd do. Okay, I mean, that's a step on the ladder,
Yeah.
right? But there's an integrity of self, and your body is kind of now wired for all of the men here. Your body's wired and your brain's wired to go in a certain direction. The only thing that's going to keep you rolling in the direction that you want to go is your relationship. And you got to get the you got to get the distinction here. The relationship you have to what you say. So
Mm,
it's not what you say,
mm,
it's the relationship you have to what you say. That has integrity or not.
mm,
You can't have integrity like a belonging. You either function with integrity or without. And you'll kind of do that back and forth
mm.
and 100 times a day, 1,000 times a day. So integrity for a human being is simply the wholeness and the completeness of the word. That is, what did I fucking say?
Mm,
What did I say? And when I hold what I said out in front of myself, I'll notice I don't always feel like it. I don't feel like what I said. Now you're up against it. Now you got this thing called feelings or integrity. And integrity is what will call you forth. Integrity is what will call you out. Integrity will straighten the road. Integrity will often make your life significantly harder, but it will keep you on the path.
mm.
So integrity is when I honor what I said. It's not do what I said like every time I'm perfect. It's not. I treat what I said with honor,
Yeah.
like that it's worth something, that it freaking means something. Like, and I mean, I don't mean it's easy. Look, if you've got a buddy and you're like, oh yeah, I'll pick you up at 8 and you're there at 7:50 outside the house. That's all fine. What about what you said to yourself though?
Mm,
Because that's the word you will betray.
mm,
That's the first one to go.
mm.
What you told yourself you would do. The reason why you get away with that one is because you make that statement in the quiet of your head.
Mm,
What you don't realize is multiply that over a lifetime. What do you
mm,
think you're doing to yourself?
mm.
I'll tell you what you're doing. You're treating yourself like what you say, you're not reliable for it.
Yep.
So you'll be good with other people. I'm my integrity. I'm a man of integrity, man. You tell, I'll do it. I'm gonna. That's right. But lying in your bed at night, when you tell yourself, I'm getting up on the first buzz of that freaking alarm clock tomorrow morning, and you get up on the fourth one again, you think that's not having an impact on you? Imagine you had a friend who kept telling you he was going to do something and he was going to do it and and he never freaking does it. What damage would that do to that friendship?
Mm.
Right. What do you think you're doing to yourself?
Excuse it for ourselves.
We hammer ourselves in the most extraordinary, damaging, and invisible ways. This is why we have no power in our word, we have no power in our declarations. So we end up playing these small games. In life, we want to do what we think we can do. We don't reach for the stars like, I'm doing that. Why are you doing that? Because I said I would. And that's it. And for everybody who's here, that's how I live my life. I do what I say I'm going to do, and I dare myself to do shit. I never do what's safe. I'm interested in what I think I can't do, as opposed to what I think I can. Right? I'm interested in that. Like who would I have to become? Um, and it's all just a stupid big game anyway. Either way.
Do you gamify it for yourself like that? I like that you said that because I've gone down that road too, where it's like I almost
Yeah.
kind of gamify everything, right? The pressure again, something you said recently that I freaking loved, and you were talking about pressure and stress, and this just being this situation, not being a disease, not being something you caught, but just being a product of you're pushing the envelope and trying to do things. And you
Right.
said you you made this example of like walking into a coffee shop and then acting surprised because it smelled like coffee or something, right?
Right. Right.
You-
Right. And that's what we do with things like stress. We treat it like it shouldn't be.
yeah,
No, it's supposed to be.
yeah, yeah.
What are you doing? It's gonna, and that doesn't mean to say you just suffer through it. I'm not a guy who's, well, that's not true. On occasion, I'll say, you got to grind through, but that can't be a way of life, right? You can't grind as a way of life. You'll grind yourself in a dust, right? Trying to overcome something you're incomplete about.
Mm.
So, there are times in my life when I feel the stress. So there's things I need to do. Then I need to eat properly. I need to make sure I get to my bed at a good time. When the alarm goes off, I get up in the first buzzing and I get right into the sunlight where I can, right? To spend 10, 15 minutes just kind of recalibrating a little. Those are all things that work for me when I'm stressed. So, and listen to music, right? And curse a lot, which is a way of life where I'm from. But you can't, you have to kind of realize that stress is part of the deal, but it's not a deal breaker. If if you manage it well and powerfully and get yourself supported and if it means, oh, I'm going to take a couple of days here where I'm just going to focus on myself and recalibrate myself a little bit here. Those are all great. People, we can deal with stress, yeah, like I said, but not as a way of life.
Yeah, have to understand. And I love the way you framed it as a byproduct of the things that we have chosen, anyways.
Right. Like, this is the other thing. You know, we are so subconscious, we're just not conscious. We're just
Yeah,
not. We're about 2% conscious.
yeah,
And it's just, you're just wired. And there's so much of our lives that we live like it was foisted upon us rather than this is what I'm dealing with is the product of my choices. but I live like, oh, this is crap. And why do I have to? Well, this is the path you've chosen to walk.
right.
But the problem even with that is when we get up to things in life or things we want to do, we just cherry pick the good bits.
Yeah,
And that motivates us to do it. I never do that. I sit down and have a cold stare down that dark tunnel, and I know the bullshit that's down there, right? And I know there's bullshit down there that I can't even see right now,
right.
and I'm going anyway. Why? Because it's my choice, and I'll own it.
That's right.
So none of that impedes me. None of that. No excuses. No nonsense. This is no coincidence. My life isn't a freaking coincidence, right? Like, you pick your partner and you live where you live and the career you chose for yourself and what you did at school and what you do with your body and it's the sum of your choices.
That's right. And inherently, there is what you just described, looking down that tunnel and getting clear with the bullshit that's going to come with the choices that you're going to make to the best of your ability, including getting clear with the fact that you can't be fully clear of what's there, right? There's this level of being okay with uncertainty, right? You've got this
Right,
default version of you. You want
right,
something new, you have to then, by default, get a certain level of comfort with being uncertain of what is
right,
coming.
right. So I think the best way to get to that is you have to realize that you are in uncertainty at all times anyway.
True.
The illusion that you have is that you're somehow secure and safe. You don't realize you're already functioning in the chaos.
Mm,
You're already like killing it in the chaos, right? You're already doing it. What are you afraid of? You're
mm,
built for this shit. This is this is the chaos. So new chaos. All right, okay, let's go.
yeah,
And where do I look then? Where do I turn? There's not a person here hasn't survived something.
yeah,
gone through something that took the legs out from underneath them. And yet here we are.
We're all here.
And that's like people say, I don't want to get through that again. I don't, but I know I'll be good.
Yeah.
I know I'll come out of it. I saw this thing, I think it was showing my age here, Eddie Vedder from Pearl Jam. I saw this
Right.
interview with him, and he said, somebody said, do you have any regrets about, your career and how it's come up and anything? And he said, yeah, I wish I'd enjoyed the tough times more.
Mm. Mm.
And we never think like that's an option.
Yeah.
Like this could be good.
Yeah.
And do you know what happens after this? What happens? You get through the tough times are shit, right? And then you get to the other side. Then you look back, the tough times are like, oh yeah, those were the days.
Yeah, that was the time, man. And so this ties in for me too, because I've heard you say, that you don't, and I think I'm biased and I resonate with this too, because I've just never gravitated towards this concept of self-love. And it,
Right.
and it's not a hatred towards myself. It is, well, that
Yeah.
doesn't, I would rather just be at peace with myself versus
Yeah.
that feels to me like I'm panicking because of this chaos around me, because of these uncertain times. And so instead of just facing it, being at peace with it and going, okay, I chose this. So now what do? I try to convince myself that I love myself in a way just to distract myself from what is going on.
Right. So I think, look, I'm not averse to people wanting to do that with themselves. That's
Sure.
fine. It's all good, right? It's a big planet. But it just never worked for me,
Yeah.
right? There have been times in my life where I hated myself, right? For things that I did, things that I should have done or didn't do or whatever. I've had that resentment towards myself. As I've matured and I've done more and more work with myself and I've read more and I've coached more people and, I'm still developing myself. I don't think that'll end until I die. Um, I treat it more like it's a comedy double act. So I kind of laugh at my shit more often than not now. Like, oh yeah, you think we're doing that? We ain't doing that. Or, oh, here we go again. All right. Well, you'll have your moment. On the sofa we go. Right? I'm just in a foul mood, pissed off. I'm like, we're not always. This is how sensitive we are, by the way, as human beings. And I know I'm talking to a group of men here, but your whole day can get torn to shreds from one sentence. Shredded, whole day, ruined. And you don't even know it. You don't even know that that was the thing that got you hooked. You're just on to the next thing. And so it piles upon piles. So I think, from the work that I've done on myself over the year, I think I'm pretty good at recognizing what got me hooked.
Yeah. You can see
And
that earlier on.
right. And then I don't hold anybody else to account for that.
How, how much work would you say, and gentlemen, this is, I will be very honest, as one of my favorite, we get to do this every week, Gary, and with some of the best men on the planet. And again, for me personally, I've been so looking forward. I'm looking forward to all of them. I've been very much looking forward to you. I love the way you view things. Um, So you guys, I will monopolize it if you guys don't get hands up. Eric, thank you for putting a hand up. You guys can start putting your hands up at any time. I'll bring you guys in for some Q&A on this too. How much, when you look back and go, okay, I've been doing work on myself for a long time. Obviously, you've written a number of books. You've been helping coach and lead people. You speak from the stage, and there's an element of, at least personally, there's an element of work, self-work that comes out naturally when you're doing that and serving and leading others. I will at least say for myself, having done those things, that helps. When you look back and go, okay, I've been doing work for a long time. Is the pattern the same now as it was before? You're just quicker at recognizing what got you hooked and getting yourself out of it. Is it the same? Like, okay, I just need to take action. I need to go serve somebody else. I need to go, like, does it look the same, or how has that work for you personally evolved?
Yeah. So I've never, I think of myself like a kind of ponderer.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I like to read things or sit with a phrase for a couple of weeks and let it talk to me. Because everything talks to you. The table lamp will talk to you if you sit there for long enough.
Yeah.
And I don't mean like it'll talk to you like something out of a Pixar movie, but there'll be a point where you actually realize you're in the presence of something that gives light, right? Or takes it away, right?
Mm,
So I like to ponder things. What I notice is I'm a machine.
yeah.
I'm a Gary machine.
Yeah.
And it's mostly full of shit. It's not much use other than just to talk about itself and, get what it wants and
Yeah.
indulge itself and overcome itself. And so the hardest thing of any growth work, hardest thing is authenticity. What makes it so hard is because people think candor and authenticity are the same, and they're not. They're two different phenomena. Authenticity is when I tell the truth to myself about myself.
Mm.
Now, that's really hard because you are the con artist and the one being con. So you're in this kind of, you're examining yourself, but the thing that you're trying to examine is doing the examining.
Yeah.
So it looks for its favor,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Richard Feynman, right? He says, rule number one is we must not, fool ourselves, and we're the easiest ones for ourselves to fool.
Listen, this has been in philosophy
Yeah,
as far
forever.
back as I
Forever.
can find,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Right. Life is but a walking shadow, a poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage and then is heard no more. It is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing.
Mm,
Shakespeare.
mm,
That's the whole deal summed up right there. We just were consumed by the noise,
yeah.
are wired to live a certain life and be a certain you. And you weren't born that way, you became that way. And then, all the work we do is to be able to get some kind of distance between that and this.
Yeah.
And the way I like to put it is Gary shows up where I am.
That,
And there he is, right? Annoyed, pissed off, angry,
that's it.
right? And when I notice it, I'm like, okay, I can see, I just get all I need is a glimpse of light, just like, oh, there it goes. All right, we're not doing that. When I want to be right about something, when I want to be dug in about something, when I want to push my point of view, when I want to pull away and do it my way and do it alone, and I don't need any. That's all fucking Gary. He's so annoying. So I just let it have its say. I don't fight with it. I'm like, okay. And then it runs out of steam. And then it happens in moments, a few seconds, and then I can take a turn. And then sometimes I don't. Sometimes I go down the tunnel with it for 3 hours. And I'm like, what am I doing? This is a waste. I've lived that life. It was boring and one dimensional. And that's the other thing I think you need to get. Like, there's a great question you got to ask yourself. If I just keep doing what I'm doing right now, where does this go?
Uh,
Then you'll get what you've sentenced yourself to. And so for me, I asked myself that question about 20 years ago. And the answer I got was angry and alone.
mm,
That's where this goes. And that might have been one of the first bits of authenticity I'd ever experienced
mm.
because I was full of shit about, oh, and I'm doing this and then I'm gonna, and then, if those people would just,
Oh, oh, this is great. All right, Eric, let's get you in here, sir.
That's excellent, Gary. Excellent to meet you. And
okay.
I love what you just said, and you sort of you gave an answer there. But I wanted to ask about authenticity and telling yourself the truth in a way that doesn't become negative,
Right.
described in a way that giving that answer was excellent. But I'd love to talk about that a little more. And
Yeah.
then, but I also wrote down positive, like action and like actions that aren't negative, like, really assessing your actions. Are they positive, or the actions you're recommending, to know that you're really taking real action versus,
Yeah.
I said earlier, but even a step further, like, oh, okay, now I'm doing something, but is it really positive action? We talk about that a little
Yeah.
bit.
So the first thing that I always try to take out is this kind of seesaw between positive and negative, right? In life, your life will only ever have two outcomes in that game. There's nowhere else to go, right? And I think it was the English philosopher, his name escapes me right now, who said, the pursuit of positivity is a negative act because it presumes something, right? Presumes that there's a negativity that must be overcome. So then when you interact with life and on those two, and those are kind of like your guiding principles, you're only getting one or the other. So then life becomes about avoiding one and doing more of the positive and less of the negative. I like a bit of positivity. I don't mind negativity. It's all right. I'm not going to die. But what I would say is get clearer about your outcomes, right? Take a positive and just say, what's the outcome here? What am I after? Okay. So sometimes people say, I'm after the relationship in my dreams. You got to wake into that reality every day. That's not a bus stop, right? That's a train journey. You got to get on that train and ride the relationship of my dreams train, right? Or the business of my dreams, or the career of my dreams, or the family of my dreams. You get to create it. Already built into that, though, no matter what you choose, there will be this seesaw of positive, negative, positive, negative, positive, negative. But as long as that's the lens, too much negative and you'll let the negative make the choice for you. So the negative will tell you what to do. So therefore, you've lost all of your autonomy. You've given it to how the outcome seems to you. And I think if you look in your life, like I said, I don't resist negativity. I'm okay with it. It's fine. It's part of the deal. I'm not pretending. I'm not sitting here like painting a smile on my face, trying to be happy all the time. It's not always there, right? And sometimes it is, and it's okay. But you'll notice it always passes through. Negative, positive, right? You can't capture it. You can't get it. So your commitments have to be out in front of you. They have to be out there, right in front of you. And you have to realize that in that game, and I call it a game, but you can call it any you want, in that dynamic between you and your commitments, there's always going to be negative and there's always going to be positive. But if you've sat there and said, this is what I'm committed to, that is what has to see you through, not how it's going. How it's going, who cares? Where are you going? Is way more important, because when I have my commitment out in front of me, that's the life I'm now going to live. I'm going to live that life. I'm living the life of my freaking commitments. And that is what gives me joy every day. But there's a lot of bullshit in those commitments. That's right. Okay. But that's the life of my commitment. So I'm committed to being an author, right? So that's a pain in the ass sometimes. Sometimes it's a nightmare. Sometimes I'm sitting at a laptop like, what am I doing? This is bullshit. But I'm lit up by that because that's the game I'm in. I'm committed to that. So how it's going, it'll go up, it'll go down, it'll go in, it'll go around. But the only thing calling me forth is my commitment and the integrity with which I relate to that.
Mm. Think about that, Eric.
Yeah, it's my brain's doing. That's got a lot. There's a lot. Yeah, no, it really makes you think, and it's
Alan Watts, by the way, was the English philosopher.
Who was it?
Alan Watts.
Alan Watts. Oh, yeah.
Right. So he said the pursuit of positivity is in fact a negative act.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Which I had to sit with that for about 3 weeks for it to make any fucking sense, by the way. I couldn't get my head around that. But I did. And then eventually I got it. Like I have to be able to see life in terms of those two things. Right? Life, there is no positivity in life itself. It's a man-made construct. Right? Oh, that's positive. Really? Maybe for you. Well, that's negative. Well, somebody else may think that's a positive.
Positive. That's right.
So I try, like I said, I like positive things. I like it when I feel positive. I like it. It's all good. I'm not in pursuit of it though.
Yeah. Yeah. It's part of that. It's part of that train ride. Part of that
Right.
commitment and outcome focused.
Right.
Really good. Really good. Good question, Eric. I like that.
Yeah, great question, Eric. Thank you.
Mr. Rich.
Gary, it is great to be on this call with you, and appreciate all of your books. I'm a little starstruck that I'm talking to you right now. It's pretty awesome. So thank you very much.
Right.
I do want to press you a little bit. You've talked about like the work that you've done on yourself.
Right.
And the facing the positive and the negative, and kind of confronting some of those fears of being angry and alone. Are there, for lack of a better word, and I apologize for that, are there like exercises, tips, or tricks that you have kind of come up with, or is this just a straight up raw digging into yourself, this is what works for me kind of deal?
So there are things you can do for sure, right? But there's no hacks.
Yeah, no, I definitely wanted to avoid the
Right? And there's no 6 tips too, right? What is that? Anyway, so I think one thing you can do, if you took like a big notepad, right, and a pen or a pencil guy, and you sit down and just write your childhood out. So write it out and take as long as you need to take and write it out. And then read it. Read it 5 times, 10 times. Read it thoroughly back to front. Every word you put down there. All the whatever, it doesn't matter. Trauma, hurt, pain, the bullshit that happened. Somebody did this to me. That was what it was like for me when I was 10. And my dad never, and my mom was a and I never got along with my, write the whole fucking thing down, okay? Read it 10 times, write it down again, start again, set it aside, write it all out again. Write it all out 3 different times, read it multiple times in between each one. The last time, take what you've got, go to the bathroom mirror, and read it out loud until you're sick of it. You'll realize how quickly you can drop something. Read it out loud over and over and over and over until you eventually just, and that's what it'll be. It'll feel like it was bullshit and that you'd wasted your life on it and that you'd blamed everybody else for it. And then you learn true responsibility, because it might be the first moment of your life where you actually took responsibility for your own childhood. And that, for some guys, I know that can be a very painful thing, what I just said there. But I can't, you got to go through it. Psychology's about healing and relief. Ontology is about liberation.
I like that.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Mr. Speck.
Hey guys, hey Gary, thanks for joining us today. Big fan. Love your content, love your delivery. I've read 3 or 4 of your books currently on Love Unfucked. Just started that one, so I'm looking forward to diving into that. The question I had came from I think it was your book, Stop Doing That Shit. And I believe you said, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe you said like the universe doesn't have your back or something along those lines.
Right.
And I found that stood out to me because you hear so much nowadays where the universe has your back, trust in the universe. You know, Gabrielle Bernstein, my wife's a big fan. She has a book called
Yeah.
The Universe Has Your Back.
Yeah.
So I'd like you to kind of talk about like what's your rationale for that. One thing I'll say I've noticed in my life when I tend to like trust in the universe and think the universe does have my back and have faith in that, things tend to work out better for me. And so I thought there was kind of some truth to the universe has your back. But
Yeah.
after, I believe you said that in your book, it really got me thinking and saying like, well, maybe it's not the universe, maybe it's yourself doing these things for yourself. But I was just curious if you can kind of explain your rationale there and what's going on there.
So you're talking about a pretty big philosophical stand that
Yeah.
one has to take, right? So Heidegger, I think it was Heidegger who said it. I'm going to paraphrase, but it's something along the lines of we live lives of making meaning in an otherwise indifferent universe. So the way things worked out, you made it mean that it was the universe. But, if the universe had people's back, nobody's getting run over by a fucking train. All right? Nobody got raped. Nobody got murdered. There were no wars, right? There's no pestilence. And none of that's happening, but it is happening. Why? The universe doesn't give a fuck. It's just being a universe. You just get the opportunity to exist in it. And then, listen, I understand why we do it. We do that because there's a certain comfort in it. Like it feels right? Feels better. That's okay. That's all right, But in terms of like there being, this kind of all-encompassing universe that'll just make sure you're all right, there's just too many bankrupt, ruined people in this world
Yeah.
for
I see what
there
you're
to
saying.
have any substance in it. So I would rather, and there's a little something in it too that I don't like. And it's where you hand over the direction of your life to something other than you.
Yeah.
That's the bit I don't like. I'm an existentialist at heart. So existentialism is grounded in this fundamental belief, right? That I'm responsible,
Yeah.
right? I'm responsible, not to blame, right? You don't drive your car like you're to blame. You drive your car like you're responsible.
Right. Right.
So you're to drive your life responsible, right? So I would rather let go of the idea that anything's got my back, other than maybe friends and family.
Yeah, sure.
But ultimately, all I'm out to do is, create for myself big outcomes in my life, throw
Yeah.
myself into them. They're going to go the way they're going to go. Some of them work, some of them don't, and the universe has nothing to do with either of them.
Yeah.
And,
What about it makes me think of like people in recovery, whether it's NA or AA, the 12-step programs. Part of one reason a lot of people admit they've been able to be successful in those programs for so long is because they've turned their lives over to a power greater than themselves.
right?
Turn it over to God or to the universe.
Yeah.
How would you argue against that? I mean, a lot of people say like, my life got a lot better when I got out of my own way, when I turned my life over to a power greater than myself and trusted in that power. Things just
Right.
work so much better for
Right.
me when they actually get out of their own way. What would you have to say to that?
Well, if I'm on a pathway of like self-destruction, a security blanket is better than what I've been doing.
Yeah. Okay. That's
Right?
good. Yeah,
So,
okay.
but I'm okay with that too. Listen, whatever fires you up, floats your boat, gets you
Yeah,
there, gets you through. Like I've said, this is a
yeah,
big world. We got room for all of it, right? I'm not going
yeah.
to chop somebody down because that's what got them through. Good for you
Sure.
that that got you through. I'm delighted for you.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm not like, saying you're pushing back against that or anything. I
Yeah,
just wanted to explore your thought process and your mindset surrounding that. So I really appreciate the time.
sure. Thanks, Eric. Another great question. You guys are clearly thinkers.
Well, there are some good thinkers in here. You are obviously a thinker as well, and you like to, or at least it seems like you'd like to read good thinkers too. Who are you? Is there anybody you read religiously? Is there anybody that you are paying attention to now that you're, diving, even if it's a current person or past, philosopher or author, or, still like who do you like to pay attention to right now?
No one alive.
Yeah, 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 uh,
No one alive.
yeah.
So I like to kind of. It's funny because I'm not academically into philosophy,
Hmm.
but I'm like a voracious consumer of it.
Yeah,
Right? But don't ask me to debate it with somebody. It's not. I don't care about that.
yeah,
I'm more interested in what it's kind of informing me of.
sure.
So, look, I mean, I'm sure all the guys here know this. You go back to the Stoics, who were probably the first
Yeah,
existentialists, really.
yep,
Um, you can't go wrong with Stoicism. You just can't. There's just so much goodness in there, right? But for me, the kind of more modern philosophers would be guys like Heidegger and Hans Georg Gadamer and Husserl and um, Paul Boudon. Like these are people who uh, kind of speak more of how I think that these. Sometimes I'll read something by say Husserl or Gadamer, and I'm like, oh my God, that just totally captures the thing that I can't get my head around. Like it captures it in a way. And those were like ontologists and phenomenologists, which is kind of what I gravitate towards, like ontology and phenomenology, which are both big disciplines within philosophy.
sure.
And I read recently that there's this move within psychology to try and bring more ontology into it. And I'm like, no, you're not fucking having it.
I,
It's us.
it's hard. Um, and I know we're coming up to the end of the hour or two, and I want to see what you're working on now, and I want to see where we can just come alongside and support to the best we can. I do want to ask one more selfish question on my side as we dive in. We've got men and women, we have mentorship programs for our young men and young women, and have people all over the world, and some of the men even who are here live with us are launching education centers in their hometown. We've got about 100 affiliates that are launching education centers for families, and so these are full on K through 12s, K through university if you want, and the mentorship for mom and dad. How do you view the education system now, like knowing what you know and knowing what you have, the work that you do, the work that you have done in yourself, the things that you are helping others go through. I launched a few schools in California years ago. I've helped launch hundreds at this
Yeah.
point. And one of my big things is I've always wanted to develop and integrate as much as we can into uh, the development of the younger generation so that we don't have to deprogram as much later. As you said, and I tend to agree. Look, there's some level of we're not going to avoid it. Like, there just
Right.
is. But is there anything we can do? And I think that's just an interesting question. Can
Yeah.
we do things
I,
different?
I think you're already doing it.
Yeah, by doing
The,
it.
the jar is open. It's out. So you're doing it, they're doing it, like people all over the world are doing it. Like 20 years ago when I kind of started getting into this game, the sort of stuff I'm saying was wild and out there, like radical.
Right.
Nah, it's everywhere. Like it's all over the place. Like I have a 20-year-old son, and I talk to him about, so I'll talk to him about, another one of my favorite existentialists, Sartre. I'll talk about Sartre, and I'll talk about meaninglessness and nothingness. And he's like tuned right in. Like he's not like, oh, it's hard to get my head around.
Yeah.
So I suspect it's in the ether. And I think it's out, and I think you're doing it, and you're doing it in ways you don't even know you're doing it.
Right.
And it can be found in the ways that we're communicating and talking to each other, right? Human beings are evolving actually right in front of your eyes, and what's evolving is our conversation.
Mhm.
So what we're talking about, what we're focusing on, what's coming up, it's good. It's all good. It's all chaotic, but it's all good because we're further exploring, like, what is it to be a human being? Like, what is it, right? I don't think that question will ever quite end, but we're picking out the parts that we think are useful and the parts that we don't think are useful, and there's parts we're applying to life. But, conversationally in society, where we are compared to 100 years ago is off the charts. It's insane. Where we are now, what we talk about in our day-to-day lives, what conversations fill the voids of our lives are just, I mean, imagine 100 years ago, a group of men getting together talking about their trauma.
Right. Right.
It's not happening.
Doesn't
It's just
happen.
not happening. It's never happening. It's just like, what are you, But now, yeah, we're talking about it. But what do you think that's going to be like 100 years from now?
Yep.
So you're working on a project that you'll never see the fruits of it.
Right.
And that's the way I look at all my work. I will never see the outcome of my work. And that's okay. It's just it needs to get done.
Ah, so good. Okay, so what are you working on now? Before we end up, what are you working on now? What do
I just finished a book. I submitted it. It's called Now What? And in this book, I like blew my own mind. I completely reinvented my relationship to time. And it was wild. It was transformational. I was typing the words in and crying at the same time. It was crazy. Like I feel as if there's parts of this book that I wrote that I didn't write it. I just managed to get the words out that like my brain just kind of cracked open, right? I was in Spain at the time with my family, and I was annoyed and writing, and then I realized that I don't like time. I don't like how it impedes, how it invades my life, and how I have to think about time, and and then I'm running out of time, and then if I use my time wisely, and then how much time have I got left, and and I'm like, what, wait, whoa, get me off, right? And then so the more I dug into it, it was just like it was a personal transformation. Like I completely transformed my relationship to my life. So that's in this book. And then as soon as I press send on the email to my publisher, and I'm not kidding, like in that minute, I cracked open another book, which I never do that. I usually take time out. So I'm about 20% through with that book. And that book is, I've often wondered what are the questions that if I asked you the question, there was no coming back from it. So I think I've got 7 of them, but the book has 10 questions in it. That's all it is, 10 questions. But I'm going to walk you through the question that by the end of it, you can't come back.
Back. Oh, that's about the best cliffhanger I've ever read for a book. Right? Oh, so what's the time frame on Now What? When is that?
Now What will probably be out. I'm guessing spring, but knowing my publisher, it could be the fall.
Okay.
But I'm guessing the spring. I will say this about now what I'm completely, this might be the best small hill of words that I've ever put together. I can't, it so speaks to what I wanted it to say, right? It's rude and sarcastic and profound and draining and inspiring. And but you'll be left as soon as you finish it, you'll want to start again.
It's scary.
Yeah, it's kind of, I don't know, there's like something like, I don't know if do you have any budding authors here?
I don't know in the people that are live within our group, absolutely.
Yeah.
But live, no.
One of the things that I do with my books is I write bits and then I read it out. And then I'll write another bit and I'll read it out and I keep reading them out. And so I speak it out like I'm having a conversation. And if it doesn't communicate conversation, I'll take it out until
Yep.
everything is speakable.
Yeah.
Right? Everything has to talk. You have to feel like you're talking to somebody.
Yeah.
So that always makes my books just much longer to write, but I wouldn't do it any other way.
Yeah, but I think that's part of what makes them such a joy to read too. I
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that makes for effective communication. I've long since believed that what we've done in school has really mucked up the writing process with all of our superfluous BS and MLA format and all that garbage. So, that's so awesome, man. I'm excited for every bit of it. We know where to put links as far as where we can find you. The most important question here, the last one for us: how do we support you best? What do we do as an organization to help you?
Live a great life. I'm doing what I'm here for. You know, use the books to do what you're here for.
Yes, sir.
Job done.
It's freaking awesome. Gary, I'll shoot you a message a little later. I'd love to send you a little thank you for being here too, and we'll get all this stuff out. But thank you for leading by example.
Awesome.
Man, it speaks. Your work speaks so much to what we're doing here too, and just extraordinary good men like you. So, thank you for that gift.
Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. Awesome. Reach out a little bit, my friend. Appreciate you.
All right. Thanks, guys.